Do you ever make some changes in your life and you start having some healing and you think, I wonder what my ex is doing? You know, and oh my gosh, you have that aha moment like, oh, I'm so sorry that I did that to them. And, you know, maybe I can, if we get back together and try our hand at it, we'll do better this time. Just stop right there, okay? Most often, getting back with an ex is a bad idea. I did write about this on brandyellen.com, and it does get a lot of traffic. So I'm guessing a lot of you are wondering, should I get back with an ex? And since I can't tell you right there specifically, I don't know your situation, I'm just gonna kind of share a video and tips based on my experiences of going back to exes. I used to say I don't go backwards, and as I got older, I'm looking and I'm like, you know what I did? I used to go back to the same person. Not all of my exes I went back to, but there were a couple that we just kind of kept trying to make it work, and it just did not work. Even my current other half, like, we were married and divorced, and even after our divorce, we tried a couple of times, and then we finally said, you know what, we can't keep doing this to the kids. We're just not going to do it. You know, we're friends, we co-parent fine, let's just leave it at that. And we did for a lot of years, and now we're back trying to test the waters, and I don't know, it's going on 5 years almost or something. So we'll see how that goes. You only have today. But the reason that it works and why we're going into like a 5-year mark of getting back together with our ex here is because, well, probably because he's avoidant, I'm anxious, so it makes it hard to make decisions sometimes. But the beauty is that when we were sitting around that campfire in 2019 when we were homeless and we were talking about things, and we weren't actually even thinking about really dating, I don't think. We were just kind of rehashing the past and talking about things and the kids. Both of us ended up saying things, each of us said a sentence like, you know, I should have whatever it was. And then he was like, oh no, I should have whatever it was. And not at one point did that conversation go, well, you should have been better, or you shouldn't have handled that situation that way, or we weren't finger pointing. We were coming together with insight on our own self as to how we could have shown up better for each other in our marriage in the first place. And that was the key for me to know there's something here. You know, as time goes on, we're both very selfless, and that we will just deplete ourselves taking care of our family and taking care of our partner. And so both of us are aware of that, and we're trying to be better about like, hey, what do you need to feel like you as an individual in this family unit? And hey, what do you need? And trusting and accepting that we each need that. But that means being vulnerable, and it's not easy. Even for a growth person like me who loves personal development, it's sometimes hard for me to be vulnerable. It takes a lot of trust. It takes a lot of trust to say, you know what, I'm a wild creature. Like, I don't want to blow up my whole family or anything. Like, I love my family unit, but I need to go. Like, I need to have an adventure sometimes, and then other times I want to just sit and be alone. I like those things. I need that excitement, but I also need the calm. Too much of either of those things makes me out of sorts, which is why my last relationship was too much for me. It was just a lot of chaos. I think we both have a lot of trauma. My ex, not the one I'm with, not the person I'm trying to keep the family together with, but a previous ex, I think we both just had so much trauma, and it was just, and you know, it was so hard to grow because I was afraid to communicate because he was very intimidating, and he was feeling whatever he was feeling. I can't really say his side because I don't know fully. It's not my place to say his side. And I know for me, I never felt comfortable speaking up because I was afraid of him. I remember the day I got my restraining order, and I knew I was going home to an empty house and had police with a restraining order having removed him. I don't mean like physically removed him, but they came and escorted him off the property. I remember coming home that day and feeling such a sigh of relief. Like, my whole nervous system could calm because that relationship was extremely traumatic for me. It was extremely traumatic for my children, and I held all their feelings too. And I don't know as though those type of situations are safe to go back to. But what you can do with those kind of breakups is that when you start wondering, should I go back with them? Stop making it about them, and stop making it about that relationship. Do a little time out and remember that you had that relationship to learn a lesson that you hadn't learned yet. And if you didn't learn it, then yeah, sure, by all means, go back and keep torturing yourself and keep going into those kind of relationships, 2019, when I hit the ER with stroke level blood pressure, and they were like, dude, you could have had a stroke, and there was nothing wrong with me. All the tests were fine. It was conclusive that it was stress, me living in my magical world. And I had tried to date someone else who was very similar to that ex. And basically that's what happened was someone said, hey, I've seen this happen before. Women and men do it all the time. They keep going back because they're not fixing what they needed to learn from that. So he said, I don't want to see you in here again for this. I'm going to see you in here again if you don't smarten up. And the gist of the conversation was to figure out what lesson you needed to learn from that relationship and start learning how to set boundaries and sticking with them. And you will find a healthier relationship. Now, I'm not going to say my relationship is perfectly healthy. I'm in a different life lesson season now, but it's much healthier than that was. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean because the external changed. It means because I'm still working on some really good internal stuff. I'm able to say to myself and out loud, I don't know why I responded that way. I think it's some trauma stuff. Let me work through it, and I apologize. I should not treat you that way. Being able to say that, even with tears in my eyes, because it's hard to say, and mean it, is something. That's growth. But the problem is if you go back to that turmoil relationship that was all like crazy, human beings are going to settle back down into their habits, and there's a high risk that if you get back with an ex, you both are going to slink back into those habits and are just going to become that volatile couple again. And all of those lessons and all of that work you did for all of those years you were apart are going to be for nothing, because it takes a very, very strong person, an emotionally intelligent person, someone who is willing to be vulnerable, to go, wait, time out. You know what? We've already done this. We've done this before. We've done the screaming. We've done the yelling. We've done the avoidant. We've done the anxious. Can we try something different? I don't want to be this way. I know you're better than this. Let's sit down when things are not so heated and be very vulnerable with each other and see where our middle ground is. Now, this is very hard to do when kids are toddlers. So my previous relationship, my kids were younger, and even my first marriage to the person I'm with now, that was hard when the kids were younger. My hormones, and I was trying to make money while having two little kids in diapers and an older daughter who's 4 years older than one boy, 6 years older than the other boy. So, I had 3 kids that needed me. So that was a lot harder. And as the kids have gotten older, they're now 21, 17, and 15, I have a little bit more time to focus back on what do I need to work on internally. And I don't worry about getting back with an ex, or do I need to break off my current relationship, because my joy, my healing has little to do with the relationship I'm in and more about what can I bring out into the world. Because no matter who I'm with, if I can bring out the right me, the healed version of me, and I am able to listen, that means I'm able to listen better. I'm able to be vulnerable and say, oh shoot, you know what? I can take the blame when I'm supposed to take the blame better. And I can do all those things. So then there's a new dynamic to who I am. And because of that, I end up bringing the right people into my life, and Source will bring them into my life. So instead of trying to control the external so much, I've actually taken a calmer route, and I'm just really focused on being a good human and knowing that there are some things in my relationship I don't love, and I'm not sure if they're going to work for the long term, but I'm taking it one day at a time. And so is he, and we're talking about it, and we're keeping an open conversation about it, about where we're at and what we need as an individual. And if that aligns and keeps us for the long term, the long haul in this human body, then yay. And if it doesn't, well, that's okay too, because that's where you need to be in a relationship, is okay with changing and adapting and trusting Source as to what you need, and to not let yourself get too involved in what Sadhguru says, mental diarrhea. Basically have more conscious thoughts, be more conscious of your feelings, and be more intentional in your life. So if you want to get back with an ex, there's going to be a lot of work, and it's going to take a certain type of personality times 2 to make it work. Oftentimes what I would suggest is just use those lessons that you learned in that, or you're still working through from the healing of that relationship, and implement them in a new part of your life today. Not necessarily a new relationship, but a new part of your life today. And keep testing those waters and testing yourself and putting yourself out there into difficult situations to see, are you really comfortable being vulnerable or not yet? Are you still feeling those big feelings and getting triggered a little bit? Okay, step back, get a therapist, get a life coach, work through these things, and eventually you'll get to the point where whatever's meant to be will be. And perhaps that does mean that ex comes back into your life and you both are like amazingly different and changed. I don't know. But I'd rather you be more concerned about where you're at than whether or not you should get back with your ex. Because if you're asking that question, it means you're still focused on the external. And you're worried about the external, of where they're going to go or where you're going to go or whatever it may be. So I invite you, my friends, to today, sit down and think about where you're at. Is there still some triggers? Note down when you feel a trigger during the day, when you feel big emotion. Pause, don't release that big emotion, and start working through them. And then as you have new friendships or new relationships or new business interactions, practice emotional regulation. Practice being vulnerable. Practice being the new you, and worry less about all this external stuff that changes regularly. I hope this really long-winded 11-minute video gave you some nuggets of wisdom to help you through the question of whether or not you should get back with an ex, and really what the real focus is, which is you. I can't do that I love you. Oh, it kind of looks like it. There you go. So I love you. I love you. Be good. Be well. Love and light. Peace. Love. Light. Till we meet again.